Hey guys, it's Ameriie. I'm here with the mid-year Freakout book tag. I was tagged by Katrina of A Little Book Owl, and I don't know who the creator is of this tag, but I will link them. I will find out and I will link them below, as well as Katrina's channel. Doing this tag made me realize that, one, I really read a lot of great books this year. Two, I didn't really touch, remember that 10 books that I own on my shelves that I want to definitely read this year? I didn't really touch a lot of those. I realized that, and so now, because that's one of the questions, like which books do you really want to get to, I will let you know which of those books that I really want to make sure I get to. And I know that I'm a little late on this tag because obviously it's not the exact middle of the year, but I'm just a couple of months late, so I figure that that still counts. Best book that I read so far in 2016? That has to definitely go to Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I love this book so much. I want to reread it. It's gorgeous. I recommend this to anyone who loves gritty fantasy, who wants a fast-paced fantasy, and really cool characters, really fun action. I would say this is a Peaky Blinders, Ocean's 11-esque fantasy. Best sequel I've read so far in 2016, Hidden Bodies by Carolyn. I listened to the audiobook recently and loved it so much. I loved the audiobook of You. I recommend this to anyone who wants to get in the mind of a crazy serial killer, but one with a point. He does have a point to a lot of the things that he says. Even if you don't agree with the means by which he does a lot of things, he does have a point. I highly recommend the audiobook. The narrator is frankly brilliant. He really embodies the character. It sounds like he's talking to you. There's a way that he performs the audiobook that's so, it's a performance. It really is a performance. He's really acting and all the characters sound great. It's just, I highly recommend it. If you don't want to pay for audiobooks because they are very expensive, I recommend using your Overdrive app. I talk about this all the time. Go to your local library, get a library card, ask them if they have e-loans, most likely they do, and then get the Overdrive app. It's a free app, and then plug it into your library, hook it up, connect it, and then you'll be able to borrow ebooks and audiobooks. It's fantastic. If you haven't already, go do so. Then you can check out both books, You and the second book, Hidden Bodies. So good. New release you haven't read yet, but you want to, Labyrinth Loss by Zoraida Cordova. We're in the world of brujas and brujos, contemporary fantasy. A girl doesn't want to be a witch. She doesn't want to have her magical powers, but of course she's born with them. Her entire family is. And she tries to do a spell that will get rid of the magic. But what she ends up doing is getting rid of her entire family. They disappear into thin air and she has to go find them. She teams up with this brujo, which is a male witch, and they have to go to the land of in-between to find them. There's a map in here which is really cool, and once I saw the map, I was in. I read the sampler on the plane and went to the bookstore immediately because I knew I had to read this book. Most anticipated read for 2016, you already know, Crooked Kingdoms, book 2 of the Six of Crows series by Leigh Bardugo. Cannot wait. I think it comes out in a week. So I think it comes out on Tuesday. The 27th, I think it is. I will be at the bookstore ASAP. Biggest disappointment? Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I loved the synopsis. It's basically about a man who wakes up and, well, he's a teacher. He's basically a science professor, and there's a lot of things that he wishes were different about his career. His wife is also an artist, but she wasn't as successful as she might have been because they kind of like got married really early. They were dating for a little while, I think like a couple of months, a few months, and then she became pregnant, and they just decided to get married, and they fell in love, but their focus became more on their family instead of their careers. And so they've kind of seen like all their other peers kind of doing their thing, and they love their life, but they kind of wonder what if. That's pretty much the setup. One day he's abducted and then he's knocked out. He wakes up and someone's like, hey, welcome back. He's like one of the biggest scientists in the world. He discovered something amazing regarding, I don't want to say too much. He discovered something really amazing. So basically we're trying to figure out, wait, which is his real life, because they said welcome back. But in this universe, his wife isn't his wife, his son doesn't exist, all of those things, and we have to figure out what's going on. That sounds like a crazy premise, and I was definitely all in. The only thing is that the book to me really feels, it really reads like a screenplay. I think it'll make an awesome movie, but for reading, it just wasn't the best reading experience personally. Some people have loved it, and I know a lot of people who really sped through it and they were hooked. But for me, it just wasn't the best reading experience. So I ended up DNFing at about 144 pages. So just my personal preference. If you like the premise though, this may really work for you. For me, I love books to still have its own, it's hard to explain, bookish reading experience. Like I enjoy prose, I enjoy sitting in a book, I enjoy fast-paced reads, but I still like the book to not totally feel like a screenplay. It's hard to explain unless you read a few pages, but it's kind of like going from action to action. There isn't a lot of character development or introspection. It's in there, but it's just so fleeting for the whole time that it just, like I said, it would be a great movie, but a reading experience, I feel like it just wasn't really for me. Biggest surprise. The Girls by Emma Cline. I fell asleep the first 100 pages like 2 or 3 times, and I wasn't sure if this was going to work for me, but it ended up really surprising me, and after I finished reading it, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Similar situation with The Secret History, Donna Tartt's The Secret History. I finished the book thinking, it was good, but afterward, I just kept thinking about it. But this one definitely surprised me. It's my most recent surprise, I should say, because I did literally fall asleep on the book like 3 times. But I ended up loving it. Favorite new author, debut, or just new to you? Ruta Sepetys. I loved this book so much, Salt to the Sea. I highly recommend it. It's about one of the worst maritime disasters. It happened in World War II. So many people, mostly young people, ended up being killed in civilian boats. I loved the writing style, I love the story structure, highly recommend. I have one of Ruta Sepetys' other books which I will be reading, but Ruta Sepetys is definitely an auto-buy author for me. Newest fictional crush? I don't get fictional crushes, I just don't. Newest favorite character? Carolyn in The Library at Montchar by Scott Hawkins. She's aggressive, she knows what she wants, she's a bit crafty, very intelligent, and extremely capable. Very complex character. A book that made you cry? I don't really cry, but I almost cried reading The Vegetarian by Han Kang. I highly recommend reading this book. It's very slim. One of my favorites of the year. There's just something very poignant and painful about the relationship with the 2 sisters. Something about their relationship felt a bit like a lost opportunity, especially when they were really young or something that happened. And I don't know, it just really tugged at my heartstrings. I didn't cry, but I did get teary. Book that made you happy? Elsewhere by Gabrielle Zevin. I reread this year. This is one of my favorite books ever. It's just, I highly recommend this. It's about a girl who passes away and she goes elsewhere, and we see what the afterlife is about, and we see what happens when people go to the afterlife. You know that question, what happens when someone passes away early on and then their spouse comes later, what if they're getting remarried, like who are they going to be with later in the afterlife, like, you know, that kind of thing. It's like, it's going to be all 3 of them. It's just like, it doesn't answer that exactly, but there's a scenario that's similar to that in here that I thought was really interesting, especially to put in a YA novel. So I highly recommend this. There's just something very clean and something wistful about this, but it's bittersweet, but at the same time, it's really happy, and there's a happy ending, which is really a beginning. Highly recommend reading this. I'm so glad I reread it. I'll probably reread this again next year. Most beautiful book that I bought this year or received. Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. This is such a beautiful book. I got this at the last bookstore. The gold pages, what is it called? Filigree here, and a little bit of art on the inside. It's so beautiful. This was also part of my favorite covers. Just check that out. So pretty. But that is also tied with George R.R. Martin and Elio M. Garcia Jr. and Linda Antonson's The World of Ice and Fire, The Untold History of Westeros and the Game of Thrones. This is the compendium, and it's gorgeous. I saw him do a lecture in which he talked about putting this together and how it has the entire history, so many full color illustrations. Like, I loved maps. I loved playing with the atlas when I was young. Like, I would just sprawl on the floor and look at the atlas and then make up lands and use my finger to like pretend I was, on a ship and going here and there. And you've probably seen this photo around. Soft touch, kind of like plush, so it feels like you're holding like this leather-bound work. Love it! What books do you need to read by the end of the year? This is what I was talking about before. I need to read so many of those books that was on that 10 books that I need to read. And I'm looking right now at 4 books. I mean, that's like half. Like, what are you doing, Ameriie? What are you doing? there isn't just one. There are 4 books that I definitely must get to. Dreams of Gods and Monsters by Laini Taylor. This is book 3, the last book in the trilogy. I would like to read this before I forget everything that happened in the last 2 books. The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. To be fair, I did read The Secret History, which is what I was waiting to read before I got to this, so there's still a chance to jump into this. It's pretty thick, but I do want to get to this. And side note, I love the mystique of this author. She kind of stays hidden for most of the time, and she always wears menswear, which I think is really a great look. The Bone Cloths by David Mitchell. I really want to get into his work. I want to read more of his works. I want to read The Slade House, which is separate from this book, but there's something like a little tie-in, and I don't want to go there until I read this, but I need to get to it. Finally. And finally, The Diviners by Libba Bray. I really want to read this, but I was waiting until book 2 was out. Favorite book community member? It's so hard to have a favorite book community member because I think there are so many fabulous ones. Nena of SCS Reads, Max of Well Done Books, Cuddle Buggery, Katrina Little Book Owl, David of The Poptimist. There are too many to name. Jean of Bookish Thoughts, Victoria of The Hermit's Progress. This is like ended up being a shout out thing. Like I feel like I'm holding the book like I'm on stage right now. Also, chapter stacks, Mariness. It's like the music's like creeping up. And I just want to thank everybody out there who's making videos because they're dope. And you know, it's really great when we have, you know, a great chance where we can share our books and our love for books with everyone. Thank you, everybody. Good night. Good night. Thank you. There we go. And that was my mid-year freak out book tag. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't freak out if you're not going to be able to read everything that you wanted to read in these next 3 months, 4 months, because there's still a chance. So yes, saying there's a chance. Yes, there is. Until next time, I will see you guys later. Oh, and I have to tag you. If you want to do this tag, feel free to do it. It's not too late. If you can get it done if you can get it done in September, you can have a sort of late mid-year freak out book tag like this. Let me know what you guys definitely want to make sure you get to before the year is out. If you like the video, don't forget to like it, please share the video, and please don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, I will see you later. Bye!